Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're new, welcome. Today we're talking about a miraculous fanfiction called Living in a Material World. Details about this fanfiction will be in the description below. This is another one of those fanfictions where so-and-so is reborn in Miraculous Ladybug. This time, obviously, as Lila. I have read some reborn as Chloe. Haven't gotten to the yet, but in this one, Lisa, who she was before, is reborn as Lila. And the other one I did was My Clumsy Trip into Miraculous. That one, she was, does that count technically reborn as Lila? I mean, or transmigrated, whatever. And that was like a couple of months before Lila would make her like canon debut. This one, Lisa is transmigrated as Lila, but when she was like a toddler. So she grows up as Lila, and she hate watched Miraculous basically, because there are a lot of things that she didn't like, but then there are things like, oh, obviously great kind of concept and everything, right? But she doesn't remember everything because it was years ago when she watched it. So when transmigrated into it, it's like, oh, great. I mean, it's not that big of a deal because it's not like she's planning on really, you know, getting involved in the plot at first anyway. Like she has no intentions of it, and then things kind of go sideways. But um, she settled in. She had to get used to being called Lila instead of Lisa. Like at some point, she just wouldn't even answer until because her name's Lisa, and then she had to get used to that. And she traveled around because her mom's a diplomat. Her dad ran some business in a chew, so he was also quite literally not around. And so they're very distant. Not that she really minded. She didn't really have any plans to get close to them. Didn't really care. But her mom really did grow on her. She's scatterbrained, but she really does love her and tries her best for her. And during that time, she got used to, 'cause she went to like a rich kid school. She wasn't as rich as like the other, because like, duh. So like as this is them like they're like as toddlers, she would she was known as like kind of almost like a pet to the other rich girls, because like she would give you compliments, do this, whatever. But then in return they'd give her like, oh, here's chocolate or here's whatever, like almost like she was like some sort of like charity case. Like, oh, I feel bad you couldn't, I went on this luxury trip for my vacation. It's like, great. She's like, so but she kind of, this is practice for when she has to do it with Chloe later on in the future. So she sucks it up and maybe makes a few backhanded compliments here and there. Their toddler's not gonna tell the difference. And so she kind of sucks it up. But in turn, she's like, you are such a brat. It's like, oh my god, okay. Um, but they end up having to leave, and she kind of understands why the original Lila started lying. I mean, she was really bad at it, but she understood why. It's because, the max that the elders stay is like 6 months, so it's like great, not really all that much time to really stay, plant roots, and get to know anyone. It's like fantastic. So they're traveling around a lot. And again, parents distant. Mom means well. Dad also loves her, but still distant in a shoot. It's like great. So kind of nothing. Then all this kind of leads up to finally her mom finally getting like a position, right, in Paris. It's like a permanent position. She's like, great. It's like, this is a little early. So she's gonna be there from like the beginning. Fantastic. And so they end up kind of exploring. That's where they they end up going into Marinette's parents' bakery. They end up going to the bakery. And this is where we kind of start to see the difference between like the show and in real life, right? In the show, it was always kind of calm, one or two people in the shop, whatever. Real life, oh my god, it's chaos there's a lot of people, right? Even a small line, because it is supposed to be, like in the show, it's like, oh, it's a really popular bakery, even though, it showed how kind of relaxed it was. So in real life, it is the most popular, like it is really popular bakery. So a lot of people are coming in and out. There's a small line. It's, people are there. And so they go there, they're immediately clocked, like, oh, you're new. And it's like, oh, my daughter just, like, I enrolled her. So this is where Sabine gets, like, the idea of, like, oh, my daughter, like, goes to that same school. Tomorrow, like, she could walk you and show you around, like, in school. Because, like, to be, like, her guide. And, she's like, oh, that'd be great. And she's, like, kind of half telling the truth. Because, yeah, to interact with Marinette, because getting off on the right foot would set the tone for how the relationship and how the rest of the interactions would go for the rest of the school year and probably like beyond that. So if they get off on the wrong foot, they're just gonna stay off on the wrong foot. And also not really, because she doesn't want anything to do with that. Oh my god, the plot? Absolutely not. She wants nothing to do with it. And so I should say she's very clear not wearing the same hairstyle or clothes as like the original Lila, because like fashion sense, it doesn't matter. So when it does finally time like come around for school to start, she doesn't end up going. Marinette is already, I guess that's why, she's like, oh, I'm already late. Like, what do you like? Cause, and I kind of get it. You just volunteered me without asking, what is this? And so, but her parents are like, oh, that's rude. Like, show her like she's new. Like, you become like really good friends. It's like, yeah. So it ends kind of like, so Marinette's carrying the pastry box to start walking. They get to know each other a little bit. How Lila traveled a bit. She did some acting because she's going to be an actress. And this is where, like, Lila makes very clear, like, to us, like, she's thinking this. Like, she truly does not care for whatever happens with Marinette and Adrien, right? She's got her life made for her. Perfect family, people supporting her, you know, her being a fashion, like, connections. Like, she gets everything, right? And that's fine for her. She does not care. She's like, I'm going to make my own life, which I love fan fictions like that. Just as a side note, I love fan fictions like that where so and so is reborn as this character, usually a villain, or maybe just like a character that's not really well liked is usually kind of what they're reborn as, and then they kind of well, it's like not trample over plot. Usually that's how it kind of goes, but they don't really care for the main character or anything that they're doing. They completely separate themselves because they're like, well, this is my second chance at life. I'm gonna do what I want to do. And those are always like my favorite, because why wouldn't you? I'm not gonna follow the plot. I don't care, right? Unless I have to. Like if I'm like, I'm gonna die or something. I don't know. I'm not going to. Like I don't care. I'm not following the main character into death. That sounds like a lot. I'm not sacrificing myself. I don't even know you like that. But this is what Lila is kind of set herself on. And then again, kind of goes sideways, starts slipping. And again, it's been years since she watched the show, so she remembers details here and there, but not a lot. Like Hawkmoth doesn't even remember who that is, right? She knows Marinette Ladybug and Adrien Cat Noir and other details here and there, but other than that, lost. Nothing. And it didn't really matter to her because, again, she wasn't going to get involved in the plot. So she's like, it's fine, whatever, right? And that would be if things didn't go sideways. Because then crossing the street, well, Marinette got a little swept away. And she ends up kind of trapped in the crowd. So her and Lila kind of end up briefly separated. And then she sees the guy in the middle of the street. She's like, isn't this Marinette's moment or something? Like, she doesn't remember who this is, right? She doesn't know who Fu is. She doesn't remember him. But she's like, isn't this like a integral part of her character somehow or something? Right? Because she doesn't really, again, remember specific details. But she's like, but the car keeps coming closer. Marinette is stuck. And, not doing too great. Marinette's stuck. And so she ends up doing a dumb, like she even's like, oh my god, this is so stupid. She ends up running towards him, tackling him out of the way. And she's like, Jesus. Car keeps going, by the way. Doesn't even stop. Just swerves. But this is where obviously she ends up meeting who, obviously, again, doesn't remember him. So she's like, is he important somehow? I don't, like, she doesn't remember. And so obviously now she's going to be chosen. And so they end up going to school. She's not intimidated by Chloe. Honestly, I don't know why you would. There's not much to be intimidated by, but she. So, and Marinette is like in awe of, because this we're also introduced to Alia. She's like in awe of Alia and Lila because of how they stood up to Chloe, right? And so Marinette still ends up sitting by Alia, and Lila decides she wants to sit in the back, right? To get a better view of everyone. But when they meet up after class, this is when, you know, because she's in awe, like she admires how they both kind of fiercely stood up to Chloe. Not even like, she doesn't. They don't even really care. And the way a lot of like she says, like she looks at it like it's a stage, right? She's playing a character. Which is in line with her wanting to be an actress, which is always the one thing she's always kind of found. She didn't really like how Marinette, like, she had all these connections, dream being a designer, and then like never really used them fully ever. And Lila doesn't have really many connections, but she still like used the few ones that she had. 'Cause she has had small roles here and there, so like she still like used them. And so, but that's how Lila had looked at the competition. Like, she's fully in control the entire time, never intimidated, didn't care. She's quite literally a child compared to her. And then the whole Stoneheart thing happens, and again, the show compared to real life, this is where it comes in again. It's like, oh yeah, they come in all different sizes, different powers, monsters, whatever. And all these Stoneheart being a golem, it's like, oh yeah, he was a golem in the show. And then seeing it, because now this is no longer a show, it's your life. It's like, oh my god, he's a golem. And it's like, oh shit, this isn't like, you might actually, you might die. And so everyone was panicked, running away, and like, oh, this is oh. And so they were going towards the exit. That's when Nathaniel was just kind of standing in the way because he was in shock, and she's just like, move. Like, he didn't, because he's still in shock. So she literally grabs him by the collar of his shirt, and it's like, are you dumb? Move. And like, so she ends up pulling him along, so they end up running like a couple blocks away. And so she's like, because like he's just in the way. It's like, move, don't just stand there. So you're not gonna survive in a horror movie. But they ended up running a couple of blocks away, and this is where, awkwardly they're like, yeah, that happened. Go home now. I'm gonna go home now. And so, but Lila's like, oh fuck, I don't know where I am. And so it's like, do you want help or something? So he ends up taking her home, and this is where she ends up getting, like, looking at her phone, text calls, 3 missed calls from her mom, and it's text from Alia and Marinette, like asking if she's okay, where is she? So they had separated in the library. And that's when she kind of looks at her desk. There's the box. The dreaded box. And she's panicking now because she's like, I'm not fit for this. This isn't even what I wanted. Because again, wanted nothing to do with the original plot, wanted nothing to do with it. Hell, she didn't even want to be like full-time friends with Marinette, right? It was great to get a good start with her and everything, just to, whatever. But she, like, being like full-time friends with her, like Alia, absolutely not. She's like, I'm okay with being like, yeah, we're friendly toward each other, and that's it, because that's a lot to ask for, and getting dragged into things that she wants nothing to do with. Like, she didn't want this, but she kind of calms herself down. She's like, okay, maybe it's like one of the other miraculous, like the turtle and the fox, like maybe it's not important, like, or maybe it's like a trial run, they'll take it back. Like, it's like she's trying to clearly talk herself, like, okay, this will be fine, not a big deal, you won't get, like, it's not an important role, it'll be fine. And then she opens it, and oh my, it's surprise, it's Tiki. And Tiki, blinking into like awareness, looks at Lila, doesn't say anything. She's clearly in shock, which is true, because it's the Ladybug Miraculous, not what she's like expecting. But then also like she has to act like, she's never seen a Kwame before and doesn't know what that is. So she's like, but the entire time, Tiki's like trying to convince her. Lila's also trying to convince her, like, you have the wrong person. Because, again, Marinette, she's not saying that or anything, but she's like, you have the wrong person. Like, I just moved here, too. So, like, I'm not even, like, the right person for this or anything. So, it's like, she's kind of trying to convince Tiki, like, literally choose anyone else that isn't me. And so, she ends up just kind of sitting there for a few minutes, like, her head in her hands, just like, oh God, what is, like, kind of trying to come to terms with it, before finally, okay, what do I have to do, right? Because, like, now we're in it. There's not really any, there's no going back. And so, transforms. And so, they end up taking down Stoneheart, and it ends up doing it right the first time, um, with purifying and everything. Like, and they get back, Tiki says, like, oh, like, usually my holders kind of mess up on the first try, and, like, they don't end up purifying the Akuma. So, did really good. And that's when Lila's mom comes in, real worried. She's like, oh, like, really worried, because, like, oh, because this did happen at, her school, right? And so she's really worried. She's like, I could put in, like, an application, like, from the office, like, we can move. And that's like, uh-oh. T's like, oh, no, you can't move. And so Lila is, like, now trying to calm her down. And so now they're in this predicament of, she has to kind of convince her mom. Like, she reassures Tiki that she will, but, like, she really has to convince her mom, like, everything's fine. Don't move. Don't do anything. So next day at school, this is when the girls kind of check in on each other, right? Marinette, Alia, and Lila, because, Lila never responded to any text or anything. So they're like, are you really okay? And she's like, oh, I'm fine. Just, my mom was real freaked out about it. So, and that's kind of when they think about their own parents being equally freaked out about it. So, um, and the conversation, they did have a conversation kind of like in canon where Mariner was like, oh, how do you know that Ladybug, well, she's not called Ladybug, but still, it's like, how do you know she will? And it's like, well, this time she actually, she did the job. Like, she purified the Akuma, she turned it back to the wrong person, which is Ivan. It's like, and they can't believe, like, oh, it was really Ivan. And I think it's Akumatized again because, shocker, Chloe, because he was people were asking, the same, but they were also getting suspicious looks, which would make anyone kind of like feel a type of way, right? But it's not only that, he was called to the principal's office because Chloe clearly kind of did something, and he's like, he's dangerous and whatever. It's like, okay. And so he was, so he gets reacclimatized because of that. So makes sense, but um after they do the second time, and Roger, he was like, oh, you guys, the same spiel as in canon, but, not minus the whole stone statue and being like whatever. But he's like, he still kind of says, like, oh, you failed. And it's like, no, they didn't. And so, like, she's like visibly annoyed with him too. I'd be annoyed too. It's like, you shut up. Like, but she's like visibly annoyed with him for kind of like, okay, let's calm down a bit. Or yeah, do something. It's like, right, okay, we're fine. So, kind of same things goes. They end up defeating Stoneheart again for the second time. And then during the whole umbrella scene, Lila's kind of watching from afar. She's like, oh yeah, they're supposed to, you know, this is their whole kind of meet cute kind of moment, I guess. Well, that somebody did it for Marinette at least. And she runs into Nathaniel on the way out because she's like, okay, I'm done watching it. It finished, whatever, right? She ends up running Nathaniel, and she's like, yeah, sorry about the whole yelling at you things. Like, I mean, I wouldn't be sorry. Move. What are you standing in the way for? We're gonna die. And cause you're like, oh no, I'm scared. Move. There's no, I will push you out the way. I don't care. I mean, I probably would have pushed him and then not grabbed him. So she did more than me. I would have just pushed you and then left you. standing in the way for. But then stormy like weather happens. She's already at the park, just because again, remembering some things, not remembering others, so it really isn't clicking. So she's already at the park and she's just kind of there chilling, and that's when Alia and Marinette come. And that's when they're kind of like, oh, like Marinette kind of rushes off, right? And she's like, oh, I have anything, she already knows, like, oh, I have anything to do with Adrian. And like as she's about to leave, because they're off doing little Adrianette plan, she's about to leave, that's when she gets sucked into the photo shoot. And she's kind of like annoyed by it, but she's also like, opportunity to get out there more. So, but she's like, she's still annoyed by it because it's like, ugh, right? But, and this is where we get from Adrian's point of view, kind of like a bit, where he's over the photo shoot, tired, wants to go home, right? Doesn't want to do this. And he sees Lila. He doesn't know Lila though, because they were never introduced, right? In class or anything. So he doesn't even know they're classmates, doesn't recognize her. But he sees her and he can obviously kind of already see that she's kind of like, she's putting up this sort of fake kind of facade of being like, oh, you know, she's not really smiling with teeth, like she's like a close smile. She's clearly very irritated. So he's like, okay, well, I'll be equally fake, you know, just because no sense in really if you're not going to be genuine, right? And so she starts it off as being kind of like a fake facade, but she kind of drops it towards the end. So when they're having a conversation, it's she's being real, but she also still has like kind of fake mannerisms mixed in to kind of give off the vibe of like you know, like a fake giggle here and there. That's like, you know, she's not being real, but they do have conversations, and that's when he finds out like, oh yeah, we're classmates, like, and he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. It's like we're not introduced, like it doesn't matter. And that's when the whole stormy weather thing happens. Blah blah, doesn't matter. It happens kind of somewhat the same. And that's when back to the photo shoot, she ends up being back. And this is where she kind of drops the whole kind of being fake. She doesn't giggle anymore. She doesn't want to, like, she's over it. Doesn't care anymore. And so, still from Adrian's point of view, he's like, because he did find her, he's curious about Lila, right? So he found her very pretty, but still, you know, she's being fake. And now after, he's like, he likes her better when she's not being fake and not with the whole fake giggle and kind of put on this facade, right? The Marinette comes over with Manon, and that's when obviously that's where what's the dude's name again? I don't remember, the photographer or whatever, it doesn't matter. He sees Manon, he's like, oh, have to include her. And so this is where Adrian really does look at Lila. It's like, you know, obviously smile for the camera is very different from like an actual smile. So he's like, I wonder what it'd be like if she, you know, really did smile for real. And so this is when like he's very clearly intrigued by Lila, and what it would be like if she's not faking her mannerism, because she wasn't faking the conversation with him, but some of her mannerisms were to give off the kind of feeling of like, oh, this kind of happy go lucky kind of person, and she's not, but like he kind of wonders what she'd be like without it. But that's kind of the end of it for now. Obviously this is only 6 chapters. It was updated kind of somewhat recently though, so you know. But that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye!